Story 1. My name is John, and this happened to me last year. I was shopping at my local Walmart, just doing some typical shopping on a random weeknight. The store was pretty quiet and was probably like 8 or 9 p.m. I had been in the store for about 15 minutes or so, and I was in the aisle where they have the fitness items. I was looking at one of those massage guns. I wasn't planning on buying one that day or even buying one at Walmart, but I had been considering getting one. When I walked by, I noticed it and stopped to read the box. I was in the aisle looking at it for a few minutes. While I was doing so, I remember hearing some voices in the next aisle over. It happened to be a toy aisle, and this was at sort of the back corner of the store. I heard a man's voice and then the voice of a child. At first I paid no attention as I was looking, but soon I heard the man say, "I will buy you this toy if you come with me." I assumed it was the child's father at first, but I didn't really know why he would say that. I couldn't really make out what the kid said back to him. But I heard the man then say something like, "Your mom said it's okay." Then I just had the crazy thought that maybe this wasn't the child's father. The man started saying, "Come on, let's go," a couple of times. I heard him starting to walk to the end of the aisle. I just had a really bad feeling about it. At the time, I didn't know if I was just being nosy or if I should do something. I decided to walk by the aisle and glance down it to see what was going on. I left the aisle that I was in and walked into the next one over, which was a toy aisle. When I looked down, I saw a man wearing a black jacket and winter hat, holding the hand of a little kid and leading her to the other end of the aisle. Their backs were facing me. I was kind of thinking on the fly, and I said, "Excuse me," to the guy. He turned around and looked really surprised. I picked up some random toy from the shelf. It was some type of stuffed animal. I said, "I wanted to ask you a question. Would this be a good gift for my niece?" I then started walking over to them. He said he had no idea, and I said I thought he might know. I then asked if that was his daughter. He said no, and that he was just watching her for the moment, but then said they really had to get going. Him and the child then walked away. I really wasn't sure if I should believe him or not. Maybe I was making too much of it. I realized it probably was a reasonable explanation, and I turned and started to walk in the opposite direction. I was telling myself that nothing was wrong, and I was just being paranoid. But I'm not even kidding. About 30 seconds later, I heard a woman's voice calling out a name. For this story, let's just say the name was Sarah. The woman was calling out Sarah. Not really loud, but enough for people in the aisles nearby to hear, including me. I walked towards the voice and found the woman a few aisles down and more towards the center of the store. When I reached her, I asked if Sarah was her daughter. She looked concerned and said yes. I had a terrible feeling, and I said that I might have seen her daughter with a man, and I thought they might be leaving. We both started sprinting towards the front of the store. The good thing is that this was probably less than a minute since I had seen the man. When we made it to the front of the store, we saw the man and the child at the self-checkouts area. He was buying one of the toys for her. The girl's mother started shouting Sarah, and the man claimed he was just trying to be nice and buy the toy for the girl, but he quickly tried to run away after realizing nobody would believe that. He ran out the door and was able to momentarily get away. I was just happy that the girl was okay and back with her mother. It turned out that the girl had wandered off from her mother to look at toys while her mom was shopping in another area of the store. The mother had believed that her child was nearby, but she had actually wandered off much further. I'd also found out that the guy was located not long after this at all. Apparently, he had tried to take another child from a different store nearby. Thankfully, he was caught quickly and is now in jail. The police told me I did the right thing by intervening when I thought something was wrong. You never know what criminals are up to, and it's better to say something than ignore your instincts. The mother was extremely grateful to me. She gave me a big hug and said I was their guardian angel that night. She told me they had just moved to the area, and it was scary being in a new place where they didn't know many people. She said she didn't know what would have happened if I hadn't stepped in. I'm just glad I was paying attention and spoke up about what I saw. Things could have ended so much worse if that man had managed to slip out with the poor girl. It's really stuck with me how quickly bad things can happen when you least expect it. I'll never forget the fear in that mother's voice when she was calling out her daughter's name. My heart races every time I think about what almost happened that night at Walmart. We have to look out for each other, especially kids who can't defend themselves. I hope if I'm ever in a similar situation again that I have the courage to speak up. Staying silent when something seems wrong can have unthinkable consequences. This experience taught me that we all have a role to play in keeping our communities safe. Getting involved isn't being nosy, it's doing the right thing when someone needs help. I'm thankful I listened to my instincts because that little girl, Sarah, got to go home with her mom that night. Who knows what would have happened if I had ignored the situation and not said anything. We all have a responsibility to speak up and say something if we witness a wrong being done. I will never take that lesson for granted. Because of my actions, a child avoided harm. It motivates me to stay vigilant and act when I sense danger, even if it turns out to be nothing. We have to watch out for each other. I hope anyone hearing my story is inspired to speak up too if you ever find yourself in an alarming situation. Don't wait for someone else to help. You could be the one to make all the difference. Story 2. My name is Mike, and I remember this Walmart sort of where I live that used to be open 24 hours. I'm not sure, but I think there were a lot of Walmarts that used to be open 24 hours. Of the ones that I've been to in recent years, most of them close at like 10 p.m. now though. Maybe the reason is because of things happening like the story I'm about to tell you. This was several years ago, probably about 2020. I remember that I worked a job back then with all kinds of crazy hours. I never really knew when I would get off of work, and some nights were really late. One time I got off of work at close to 3 a.m. By the time I was done, I was exhausted, but also really hungry. On my way home, I stopped at the 24-hour Walmart to see what they had there. There were no restaurants nearby that were still open, and I was just going to go down the snack aisle and maybe find something to drink as well. When I got inside, I made my way over to the food. The store was almost completely empty. I only saw a couple of employees here and there. When I got to the snack aisle, I browsed around for a little bit. I wasn't really sure exactly what I was hungry for. I often have a hard time deciding what to eat or where to get food from. I browsed for maybe 5 minutes, and then I had this feeling like I was being watched. It seemed a little strange, and I looked around. When I looked to the far end of the aisle, I saw a man standing there looking towards me. It was a sort of tall and skinny guy wearing a black Adidas sweatshirt. When he saw me looking at him, he just kept standing there. He wasn't looking at anything on the shelves in particular. He looked away from me, but I thought the guy seemed really weird. I went back to looking at the food on the shelves and trying to make up my mind. I wandered into the next aisle over where there was more food. I was there for no more than 10 seconds, and I noticed the man creeping around the corner slowly and then looking at me again from the end of the aisle. This was really strange. I grabbed a bag of trail mix and then made my way towards the back of the store along the side. Once I was at the far back corner of the store, I decided to walk back to one of the main walkways. But when I got there, the man was already standing there looking at me. I started walking all around the store and the man seemed to be following me. He kept slowly walking around the store, trailing me wherever I went. It was really frustrating. His face was almost expressionless the entire time, and he never spoke a word. Finally, I said forget this, and I went to the checkout area. There was only one check lane still open, and I told the cashier that some guy had been following me around the store. The man did not follow me into the checkout, but instead wandered off into the clothing area that was across from the check lanes. She just kind of said, "Thanks for letting us know," and agreed that it was weird. I just wanted to get home, eat something, and go to bed. After I was done checking out, I walked down towards the exit doors. I was sure to scan over and make sure that the creepy guy was not once again following me. I was really happy to see that he wasn't. When I made it out the door, I walked through the parking lot to my car. My car was parked a little ways from the doors. It wasn't in the far back end of the parking lot, but it wasn't really that close either. The parking lot was mostly empty, but there were a few cars scattered all around. most of which I'm guessing were employees. Right as I was starting my engine, I looked up and noticed something. There was a man sprinting at full speed from the Walmart, headed straight for my car. It was the same guy that had been following me around. The way that he was running was so fast, like he was running for his life. But he wasn't running away from anything, he was running for me. There was a second or two where I was so confused that I just watched him. That was until I realized he was going to reach my car very quickly. Then I put my car into drive and got out of there. I pulled away probably just a couple of seconds before he would have reached me. He kept running though, all the way until I was out of the parking lot and on the street. Then I was easily able to get away. I was really confused. Who was this man? Why did he follow me around in the store? And why did he run full speed at me when I was in my car? I kept replaying it in my mind, but couldn't figure it out. The whole thing was bizarre. I decided I should call the police just to report what happened in case it could help someone else avoid the same creepy situation. When I explained to the officer what occurred, he sounded concerned. He took down all the details and said they would send a patrol car to the Walmart to look into it. About 2 weeks later, I got a call from the same policeman. He told me they had identified the man from security footage, and it turned out he was wanted for some really disturbing crimes. Apparently, he'd have followed other women home from that Walmart before and broken into their houses later. He had also assaulted several people in the area recently. The officer said I was smart not to engage with him and to get out of there right away. He told me I may have prevented something much worse from happening just by reporting it. The man was clearly unstable and up to no good that night at the store. After I called, he was caught on camera vandalizing a car in the lot. Thanks to the report I made, the police were able to connect the dots with other crimes this guy was involved in. It made me sick to think what he might have done if I hadn't pulled away so quickly. This experience taught me that we really need to watch out for each other and speak up if someone seems suspicious. I still shop at that Walmart sometimes when I'm up late, but I'm much more cautious now. I'd always park close to the entrance and make sure no one seems to be lurking around before I head to my car. I also told the store manager they should consider closing earlier for the safety of their shoppers. He agreed it was good feedback after what I went through. I'll never know for sure what that creepy guy wanted or why he targeted me that night. Maybe he was planning to steal my car or abduct me once I left the store. All I know is those gut feelings of something being wrong are there for a reason. We have to trust our instincts and not ignore warning signs even if it seems silly. After that experience, I have much more awareness of my surroundings when I'm out late at night. If I see anything that seems off, I don't hesitate to call for help or notify someone. We can't predict when bad things are going to happen, but we can do our best to avoid dangerous situations. I'm just relieved that I escaped safely that time at Walmart. It could have been so much worse if I hadn't acted quickly. I hope anyone hearing my story will learn from it. Don't ignore those feelings that tell you a person or place seems threatening. Take action to protect yourself, whether that's leaving, telling someone, or calling the police. Those split-second decisions can end up saving your life. I know I'll never take safety for granted after almost becoming a victim myself. We all have to look out for each other and speak up when danger is near. Story 3. My name is Alex, and I used to work at a Walmart a couple of years ago. This was my strangest experience from that job. I mostly worked overnights and would stock shelves. It was an easy job for me. I would start at like 9 p.m, and at first the store would actually be open, but would close only like 2 hours into my shift. There would never be very many customers in that time anyways. A good number of us worked overnights because obviously Walmart is a really big store. On this one night I happened to be working in the pets and supplies aisle, which is in the back end of the store. I'd been working in that general area, but not that exact aisle earlier in the night. But by now, it was about 11:30 p.m. Our store closed at 11, so we had been closed for 30 minutes now. As I was in the pet supply aisle, I was just stocking one of the shelves by myself. Where the store closed, I would often put in headphones and listen to music while I worked, which is what I was doing. It helped work go by faster and easier for me. but out of nowhere, I saw something out of the corner of my eye. It appeared as though somebody had walked by. I looked over, but they were now gone. I assumed it to be one of my co-workers. Once a few minutes went by, I kept working. Then again, I saw somebody at the end of the aisle out of the corner of my eye. I looked over, and this time the person did not walk away. It wasn't one of my co-workers, though. It looked like just some guy that I had never seen before. When I looked at him, he disappeared behind the next aisle. I got up and walked over, and then looked down the next aisle. When I did, I saw the man disappearing out of that aisle and into the one after that. I took out my headphones and then radioed in on my walkie that I thought I saw somebody inside the store who wasn't supposed to be here. After that, I kept doing my work. About an hour later, I went to the back room. That area was pretty large in our store, but I was the only one back in that section at the time. When I was walking over there, I was sure that I saw the man again. I could see him hiding behind a box underneath one of the shelves there. I didn't stare at him, and I acted like I never saw him. I was going to walk past, but I decided to turn around and then go the other way instead. He was maybe 30 feet away. When I began walking back, I heard noises behind me. Even with my headphones in, I started running for the exit to go back into the sales floor. I heard footsteps behind me when I did. When I got there, I opened the door and the man did not come out after me. I ran to find the nearest employee, which was Al, who was working in the electronics overnight at the time. I told him that I saw a man in the back, and he decided to come back and see. I had a bad feeling, and I wondered if the guy was dangerous. We both went back there anyways. When we opened the door to the back, we heard the sound of another door opening. It was coming from one of the doors we had back there that opened up to the outside. They were rarely used. We walked in further just in time to see the guy walking out of the store and the door closing behind him. After that, he was gone. I still don't know how the man got inside. My only guess is he somehow avoided all employees and hid inside the store until after we had closed. I also wonder what he was going to do to me when he was hiding in the back and then followed me. Luckily, I quit that job not too long afterwards. About a week later, I saw a news story about a wanted man being arrested for hiding inside stores after hours to rob them. When they showed his mugshot, I instantly recognized him as the creepy guy from Walmart. I immediately called the police and told them about my encounter with him. The detective I spoke with said this guy had a long criminal history of breaking into places at night. He would hide until employees left and then take cash from registers, steal merchandise, and vandalize the stores. In some cases, he had gotten violent with employees who caught him in the act. I felt chilled when the detective told me this criminal had a knife on him when they arrested him outside the Walmart. He said I was very smart to get away from him and call for help when I did. Things could have ended badly if I had tried to confront him alone. He thanked me for reporting my experience, as it helped them establish proof of his methods. Looking back, I realize I'm lucky I escaped that night without getting harmed. That man was clearly dangerous and up to no good skulking around inside after closing. I should have gone with my first instincts and called police right away when I spotted him instead of waiting. If I ever have that uneasy feeling again about someone's presence being wrong, I won't second guess myself. It makes me worry about anyone working alone late at night in these big stores. You just never know who could be lurking around or hiding until staff leaves. I hope more businesses will look out for employee safety with extra security precautions. No one should be put at risk of encountering criminals on the job, especially by themselves. After that trauma, I decided retail work was not for me. I found an office job with regular 9 to 5 hours instead. I feel much safer not having to walk around huge empty stores late into the night. I'll never forget that creepy guy at Walmart who gave me such frightening chase in the back. Thank goodness they arrested him before he could do real harm to someone. I learned you should always trust your gut when someone gives you that predator vibe. Don't wait to get help or flee the situation. Your safety has to come first.